It's lights out, and welcome to the Low Downforce podcast. I'm Josh. I'm with J9. We don't have. Oh, I forgot the tagline, the Four Friend Formula One podcast. But there's not four of
Wait,
us.
it's two friends.
Yeah, it's only two today. We'll hopefully add them back in soon. But we are reviewing the United States Grand Prix in Austin this past weekend, and I feel like we might as well get going. What is your race rating, J9?
Honestly, this was an okay race to me. I think that when I look at F1 overall from the business standpoint, I really like this race. It draws such a big crowd, a lot of interactive experiences that you can do before race day, before sprint day, like pretty much all week. There were so many activations going on. And then once we actually got to sprint and race and quali, it was quite the experience if you were there. I wasn't, sadly, but in America, it's known to be a very big race and very different than Miami and Vegas, because those are, reeling in the city and all of the glam and glory of them. And then Austin, it really brings in American pride and just a lot of activations there for fans. And so I think that was really big. We had a couple new liveries as well, which was really cool to see on track. And so from that kind of standpoint, I thought it was really cool. I would say from the actual race perspective, and I know we're going to get into it, I think the sprint was probably actually more interesting than the race itself. And so I looped that in all together. And so I'm going to give it a solid 8 because the race wasn't as exciting, but still things happened. And so it was, but I think sprint was a lot crazier, which then led into the race and what happened there. So solid 8, would see again. And I think it was, an unexpected turnout, unexpected things happened. So I thought it was pretty good. How about you?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think the U.S. market for F1 now is so big that all three of the races in the U.S., Austin, Miami, and Vegas, are just huge events now. So you nailed that. I also gave it an 8 for like the entire weekend, partially because in the sprint, like you said, the McLarens made it exciting by crashing into each other on the first turn, taking each other out. And that's always good to see as a non-McLaren fan. Our two resident McLaren fans are not here to defend themselves. And also, Ferrari had a good weekend. They finished
huge
third and fourth. We'll get into that later in the race.
Yeah.
But,
and Verstappen, talk about setting records. Verstappen gets first in both qualies and sprint and race. That's just such an incredible race for him. And I know this season's been so challenging for him. So if you're a Verstappen fan, you had a great weekend. It was like the best. 20 out of 10 definitely would repeat.
The only thing he didn't do to cap off the perfect weekend was having the fastest lap of the race. But he led in FP1. He led every other session. And yeah, I mean, Max Verstappen is an absolute animal. Yeah.
Lights out. It was like the old Max and old Red Bull was back. And like, fuck McLaren, who were they?
Yeah, but with McLaren, we'll start off the drama right there in the sprint. Like I just said, turn 1, Max goes deep into the corner off a pole. Lando is right behind him going deep in the corner. Oscar thinks about going outside, but then tries to cut back. And then he catches Nico Hülkenberg, who's on his inside at the apex. Hülkenberg couldn't go anywhere because Alonso was on the inside of him. The turn 1 in Austin is a super wide entry, so you can have 4 or 5 cars probably lined up going into a turn. And Oscar cut back. It was ruled a racing incident, and I would like to agree with that. But Oscar took himself out of the race. He took Lando out of the race, and Alonso also DNF'd.
Which is so depressing for Alonso because, like, he could have had a really good race.
Yeah, and then Ocon and Stroll had an incident later, and they also didn't DNF. But, I mean, apart from turn 1 drama, I feel like the sprint was pretty standard sprint where there's not a whole lot of action on track. But I feel like Max Verstappen picked up 8 points for getting the win. Neither McLaren picked up any points in the Drivers' Championship. So I feel like they're kind of setting the stage for a very interesting Drivers' Championship down the stretch here.
Yeah, and that's going to get into my track take, so we'll relax on that for now.
But you might have the same thing as me.
Are you serious? Wow. Put it to the two McLaren haters to have the same things today. It's a possibility.
We'll have to green flag it if they line up. But yeah, that takes us to quali, which, like we said, Max, another pole position. He has been absolutely on fire recently. He's
Yeah.
just so quick.
Which makes me think like a little bit, and obviously speculation, but what was happening with Christian Horner and Red Bull to have Verstappen just not being Verstappen, you know? And it's almost as if it's a whole new
Yeah, it seems
team.
like all the pressure came off for Red Bull, and I think they've kind of just let Max decide, like, set up for the car almost. Like, instead of just saying the data says we should go with this, like, I know in certain races he said, like, oh, let's go for the low downforce setup. Shout out Low Downforce podcast. Like, they've kind of just let him go with it and let him adapt to the car rather than forcing him to drive the car a certain way, because Max is the best driver on the grid. Like, he will get the most out of the car. So if you set it up and give him a chance, he will absolutely capitalize on it.
Yeah. And it's been showing over the past few weeks. Like, we haven't seen him dip below podium in any race. So it's been awesome.
And I think if you ask Red Bull fans, like, a third of the way into the season, they'd be like, oh, the season's completely over. Like,
yeah,
we don't have a second driver. Verstappen can't even get, like, top fives regularly.
I mean, when I was watching it, it looked like he was just out for a Sunday stroll.
Yeah.
Like, chilling, going into all these turns.
Yeah. And Lando was P2 in qualifying. Charles Leclerc just behind him by 0.008 of a second in P3. And Russell P4, which was good for him to qualify. But we can go into the race, and I'll go through just the final standings, and then we can talk about the race itself. Max won, like we said. Lando finished second after some battling with Charles, who finished third. Lewis Hamilton,
that was such
fourth.
a sad overtake. I was very depressed.
Yeah. Oscar finished fifth. George sixth. Yuki seventh. Nico Hulkenberg eighth. Ollie Behrman ninth. Fernando Alonso 10th. Carlos Sainz was the only DNF after a crash with Kimi Antonelli, who was able to continue, but he finished all the way down in 13th. And Carlos Sainz picked up a penalty, a 5-place grid penalty for the next race, which will be the Mexican Grand Prix, and 2 more penalty points on his license. So he now has 4. So he's not really in danger of having to serve a race ban, but it is something to note. Yeah, and let's get into the race. You want to go straight into track takes, or do you have anything like specific you want to talk about before?
Let's do tops.
Okay, we'll go.
I think we may share the same one.
That I would say that's likely.
Ferrari?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, then I'll side with Max on this one. That's my 1B, because it was just such a phenomenal race watching him in sprint and in the race, and in qualifying he was just lights out, and we just talked about it. So there's nothing else I can add, but just brilliant driver.
Yeah, he's an absolute beast. Ferrari, they finished third and fourth. It's probably their best race finish in a long time, it feels like.
Oh yeah.
Charles started on the softs, where almost everybody else on the grid started on the mediums. And it was a great strategy because he overtook Lando on the first lap. And Lando and Charles had some phenomenal battles.
Oh, yeah.
On the first stint, when Charles' tires degraded, Lando was able to pass him, but then Charles pit and then had the undercut done pretty well. But then Lando got him at the end again. But the McLaren is still a rocket ship, even though they're not as dominant as they were earlier in the season. But yeah. I feel like overall for Ferrari, like, mixing up the strategy, actually getting it right, like, Ferrari hasn't done that, I feel like, all year. Lewis, after the race, was happy with the car. He said, I'm feeling at one with the car right now.
Just like, so out of this world for him.
Yeah, hopefully some positive momentum to take into Mexico. And I think Ferrari is kind of in no man's land in the Drivers' Championship and the Constructors' Championship. Let's see,
he's like 6th in the drivers?
Yeah, so Russell and Leclerc are like 60 points apart. Like, I don't think Leclerc is going to catch Russell for 4th.
No.
And Lewis is like 50 points behind Leclerc. And like 50 points ahead of Antonelli. So I think within the drivers, I think they're kind of going to stay there. And, they are actually in a battle with Red Bull for, Red Bull and Mercedes. Mercedes has 341 points in the Constructors. Ferrari has 334. and Red Bull has 331. So they are very close there. So I was thinking Ferrari had kind of just fallen off, but I guess it's a tighter race than I thought. And with Max doing so well, hopefully Red Bull does not catch them. But yeah, phenomenal weekend from them, and that is why they get my top. And I guess yours too.
Yeah. Did you have a heart attack when Lando had passed Leclerc and then Hamilton comes up and tries to do some things? And I was like, it was inches from a crash. And I was freaking out. Like, Hamilton, this is your best race so far. And why are we taking each other out? Like, we need these points. And I was not having it.
I was surprised they were doing that, and that they hadn't just like pit Charles earlier so that they didn't end up, like, Lewis didn't end up catching him.
Yeah.
But they eventually had then brought in Charles. I'm surprised Charles fought it and didn't just let Lewis through, because Lewis was on the medium, and so he had the better tire at that point because Charles' soft had degraded so much. So yeah, that was, I thought double DNF was inbound right there.
Yeah, I was freaking out. I thought we were going to repeat the McLaren crash. That was kind of scary. But yeah, that was definitely my top. I think, I mean, you brought up Mercedes and the challenge that they have in needing to get additional points for drivers. And I think Russell's had such a great past few races, and he's really, put a name out there for himself. And obviously, kind of like looking back at him getting the seat for next year, it was like, he's totally trying to prove himself, absolutely, as he should. But I think, like, at the beginning, and this leads into my flop, like, at the beginning of the season, Kimi was doing so well. And so I think that, part of like, he's so young, and I just want him to do so well. And he has so much skill. I mean, he truly is a great driver. So going into this race, he started like 5th, and I thought he was going to get some solid points. And I was so sad. So my flop is Sainz running into Kimi. And you just mentioned it earlier, Sainz attempted the overtake and didn't do so well.
Yeah.
He had nowhere to go. And I think that was probably the depressing part of this race for me, because seeing Kimi drop back all the way to like 16th, 17th, he eventually made it up to 13th to end the race, but he really had so much potential here, and he was doing so well, and then it all just crashed, and it wasn't his fault. And I'm really sad, and I'm sad at Sainz, because he's such a good driver, and I also like him. So
yeah,
it was just very
Sainz is very fun to root for. And also we didn't mention it, Sainz got 3rd in this sprint race. Like, how crazy is that?
Right.
I think that's
Two
right.
guys who were doing so well, and I was excited for them to have additional points. Anytime a Williams is doing well, I mean, come on. And it was just very unfortunate. I'm like, could it have been other people I didn't like, please? But it wasn't.
Yeah. I think Williams overall is moving in the right direction. I think this was kind of just a mistake from Sainz, and unfortunate ending.
Actually, one of my favorite clothing brands just did a deal with Williams, and they put stuff out. And my boyfriend and I looked at each other, and we were like, "Are we now Williams fans? Because we got to get the gear." So shout out Williams, and Unreal is my
not to expose Ben here, but after the sprint race, when McLaren double DNF'd and Carlos Sainz got 3rd, he did send a text to the group saying
that's true,
might have to switch to Williams. So we'll see.
So I guess this pod is going to be pro Williams next year?
Yeah, I think everyone is pro Williams. Like, nobody dislikes them. They're so likable.
No, they're just like, aw.
My flop, I really want to be McLaren, because they didn't have a great weekend. Verstappen's gaining on them. I'll talk about that more in my track take. But my flop is going to be Alpine, because Franco Colapinto got team orders towards the end of the race.
I know. I was like, he's totally going to be fined or something.
And he just, like, completely ignored it. The team is very upset with him. And, like, they were fighting at the back of like, everyone. Like, they were they finished in
it was like
19th and 17th.
Yeah. And my favorite part was over the radio, the team engineer was like, "Are your, like, hold positions, don't overtake?" And he was like, "Oh, come on, he's slow." We were, like, cracking up hearing that. And then 2 seconds later, he went past him. What? Yeah.
And so I feel bad for Colapinto. I think he's very competitive. I feel like he has
Yeah.
kind of soured his time at Alpine because I don't think he's as bad of a driver as everyone gives him credit for.
No,
I think
but
he's
neither is
stuck in a really bad
Gasly.
car. Yeah.
Pierre's a great driver, and so I just feel like they're in the wrong car.
Yeah. And both of them, I think, have personalities that kind of lend themselves towards like combative relationship. And I think they're still like pals, but it seems like the team is very upset with Franco, understandably because he defied team orders. But yeah, I feel really bad for him. Alpine is kind of just an absolute mess this year. And so they're my flop.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then that goes straight into track takes. We kind of might have the same thing here again. But my track take is that he's going to win the Drivers' Championship, Max Verstappen.
Okay, mine's different. I'm going to yellow flag that because mine is he's going to beat Norris but not Piastri. I think Piastri's going to finish out the season well. Not that Norris won't, but I think Max is going to continue to be right at the top. And so I think that it's not going to be Lando, but it's not going to be Verstappen. It's going to be Piastri who wins.
Okay, that's
but mathematically Verstappen could win. So like you're not like you might be right.
Verstappen is 40 points away from Piastri and 26 points away from Lando.
Yeah. Wait, how many races do we have left?
I feel like I should know this off the top of my head, but I don't.
At least 3.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 races left. And so that's an average of 8 points per race over Oscar Piastri, which that is a big ask. But you get like a DNF here and there. Max wins. And I think I also saw Max is at a place where if he wins all the remaining points, even if Oscar gets second, he wins the championship. So it is now in his own destiny. He's fought to be close enough to where he can just take care of business. And I feel like all the momentum is with Verstappen right now. McLaren has kind of been battling within the team about team orders this, team orders that, papaya rules,
Yeah.
And I feel like all the pressure's off Max, and he can just drive. And I saw something online earlier. I think it was the P1 podcast debating whether Lando would catch Oscar first or if Max would catch Lando first. And I guess in your opinion,
Max is catching Lando.
Max would catch Lando. But Lando's only behind by 14 points, which is not that much. And he's been better than Oscar as of late. So,
to me, it's just naive to think that Piastri and Lando are both not going to do well. And Verstappen's going to get like first and second. Like, I don't think that DNFs are going to be very common. Yeah, but I do think that, like, especially going into Mexico, is going to, like, he's been doing so well lately. And Leclerc and Hamilton, like, I think they are going to be inching their way up and taking some of the McLarens off the podium like we saw this race. So I don't think that it's impossible that one of the McLarens continues to not do as well. But I don't think it's going to be both. But we'll see. Maybe they flip-flop.
And what will get interesting is if they do have a few slip-ups between now and the end of the season.
Yeah.
And the team has to basically pick, hey, Lando, we actually want to win the Drivers' Championship. Can you not crash into Oscar?
Yeah.
So that Oscar can win the race and win the championship. And that will get very feisty.
We've been talking about papaya rules kind of like out the window. And I think we're really going to see that. I would say like within the next 2 races, depending on how Mexico goes. And probably, I mean, what is the one after that? Vegas?
Brazil and then Vegas.
That makes a lot of geographical sense. They should have done like Austin, Vegas, whatever.
You're slowly moving west, I think. Well, Brazil's east, I guess.
That doesn't make sense. But anyways, I think that we'll see by Vegas. I'm looking forward to this Vegas preview that we do on the pod because I think we're going to be talking about that. Like, who are they going to tell to slow down?
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah,
I'm really intrigued.
I think that's inevitable at some point. But while the Drivers' Championship is all the rage right now, so is the Predictors' Championship on the F1 podcast.
I think I got a lot of points.
So overall this week, we killed it. And you got 4 points, but
did I get my hot take right?
No, you said Lando was going to DNF, and he did not DNF in the race. He DNF'd in the sprint.
Wait, but didn't I say it was going to be either in quali or race?
I don't think so. I think you said he was going to like fight with a Mercedes and crash out of the race.
Maybe 2 track takes ago was I've been track taken that they're going to not do well.
Yeah, you have been. But you got 4 points, which was great, but I got 8 points, and Ben got 7 points, and Matt only got 1 point. So now I have retaken the lead from Matt. I have 43 points. He has 37. You have 29, and Ben is almost caught up to you and has 26. So it is absolutely close. Ben got his hot take that McLaren won't finish top of any of the competitive sessions because Max Verstappen finished top of all of them. I said the McLarens will crash into each other during the sprint, which they absolutely did. And those were the 2 good hot takes, which is why I got so many points.
I should have just kept mine. I should have just kept the same damn one.
And then between you, me, and Ben, we all predicted the sprint win, the sprint pole, and winning the race for Verstappen. Ben and I both got Norris in P2, and you and I both got sprint pole for Verstappen. And Matt's only point was P2 for Norris. So we move on to the next race, and we're running out of time, but it is a close race in the predictors. So that is very exciting for all the listeners. Yeah. So I forget how Ben does the outros, but tune in before we preview the Mexican Grand Prix. That'll be out on Thursday.
Are we doing it in Spanish, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally.
We will not be.
We will now.
But that would be very intriguing. We could get some people on for next one.
Yeah,
in 2026.
Totally. 2026, yeah.
We're going to plan. Our Spanish is going to get better and do it all in Spanish. It's going to be a real fucking short episode, but it's going to be in Spanish, so...
And then we're going to do the Brazilian Grand Prix in Portuguese after that.
We're not there, okay?
Well, anyways,
but I do have some friends who would be able to join.
And stay speedy. We'll see you before Mexico.